Now we welcome in our buddy David Diehl, two-time Super Bowl champ, Tiki's former teammate of the G-Men, heck of a player, and an equally great guy. What up, Diehl? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing excellent, fellas. Congratulations on the new gig, and most importantly, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your families from myself, Tina, and Addison.
Yeah, most certainly,
you,
man.
pal.
How is Addison doing? She's got to be so grown now. This is David's daughter who was a baby when I knew her, just like my kid was a baby when Diehl knew my kid, and now he's at Princeton. How is Addison?
Addison is doing unbelievable. Both of you know that our daughters share the 27th as a birthday,
That's right.
So she will be 15 on the 27th, which is amazing, and she's already 5'9", so I think she's got a day.
5'9"?
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, there you go, buddy. Well, listen, let's get into shop here. We need answers. Let's face it, when you look at the Giants coming into the season, David, there was two primary aspects of evaluation, other secondary things, but I think everybody looked at the 2 bullet points. Number one, the Giants needed to have a definitive answer on Daniel Jones going into the offseason. Mm-hmm. And number two, from a team point of view, continue the momentum that they had built a little bit last year with Joe Judge. And on both counts, they've gone sideways. Nobody really knows what Jones is yet fully, and the team's worse this year than last year. Imperative they make changes. What do they do? What is the first thing they need to address?
Well, I definitely think that they need to address the roster. That's something that's obvious, I think, amongst anybody sitting there watching a New York Giants game this season, and the areas of major concern that have continued to show up on either side of the ball. Number one, the offensive line, and then two on the defensive side of the ball, getting another premier pass rusher that forces offensive coordinators to slide protections, chip help with tight ends and running backs to really create one-on-one matchups down the bow of the pocket in those A and B gaps to get pressure on an opposing quarterback, but to be able to do it consistently. But, looking at this last game up against the Dallas Cowboys, obviously you look at the defensive side of the ball, and, they did as much as they possibly could in that game to give the Giants a fighting chance to win it. But, the offense did absolutely nothing to play complementary football to it. You think about the 2 Dallas touchdowns, the Cowboys got the Giants on the Cowboys got the ball on the Giants 13 and the 29. You want to talk about setting up another team for success, that's how you do it. And the big thing for me, I think Patrick Graham on the defensive side of the ball and the way that he has those players playing fit the system, but they've definitely got to do something for this offensive system moving forward in 2022 scheme-wise, because when you look at the talent on the football field, and I know that there's injuries, but at different times, whether it's having Kenny Golladay on the field, Kadarius Toney, Slayton, Evan Ingram, Rudolph, those players can create mismatches to be advantageous for you offensively. Watching the Giants this entire year, they didn't do anything game plan-wise to set up those players for success. And Tiki will attest to this 100% with me. When you're struggling running the football, if you can't integrate misdirection and more importantly, deception to it, you are going to struggle, especially when you're dealing with your second-string quarterback.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Mike Glennon he looked overmatched, and I don't know if Jake Fromm is going to start this game or not.
He better.
Nobody
wants to see Glennon.
Yeah, I know he should. Obviously, as we said yesterday, Daniel Jones has been shut down for the year. Probably a smart move given a neck injury that he had. David, what you just mentioned is something that I think a lot of coaches in the NFL have started to do, which is create advantages by using misdirection or different ways to get to the run game. It's very hard to completely abandon a run game. We saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers try to do this on Sunday night this past week, and they got shut out by the New Orleans Saints. It was ugly. It was all 11 and all wide open, and Tom Brady struggled in man coverage. But the only way that can happen is if the line can understand it. You talked about it a little bit. With mouse, with flats, I'm talking about line coaches. My first line coach was McNally, and then it was flats. It was done in a very cohesive manner. So when I look at this Giants offensive line, I don't know if they're coached well. Can you talk to that? Because that's the biggest part of any team, especially the Giants, who seem to be struggling up front for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and you know what? That I'm going to take a different complete stance on, because with the coaches that they have right now, Coach Sale, Coach Wilkerson, and Coach Flatt, I think that they've done a good job with the damage control that they've had to do at the offensive line position. And a perfect reason to attest to why it's not the coaches, Prime example is Will Hernandez at the right guard position.
Yeah.
He's on 5 offensive line coaches right now. And at this point, we figured out it's not the coaches. It's the players. So I think that that's something that you have to understand. And also, when it comes to a game where you become one-dimensional and you're going one-on-one pass pro for the entire second half, I don't care who you are. You're not going to win games that way.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the cohesion, like you said, building a run game, being able to do it at the offensive line position, going into a season and going into now, which is week 16 for the Giants, Rich Seubert and I took at least 2,000 reps of working double teams, the footwork and the cohesion that goes with it. So that's where that run game has to have some misdirection and deception built into it, so that when you do have double teams, that there's different cohesion.
Yep.
They're hitting clean together with the same pad, same foot.
Okay, so, and I get it, and I obviously hear what my partner's saying. What you guys are espousing is certainly not wrong. You guys played the game. You forgot more than I'll ever know. I get that. And we're talking to David Diehl, 2-time Super Bowl champ, formerly of the Giants, and obviously former teammates with Tiki, and I've known Dave for a while. Great guy. But to me, you guys are getting into the weeds, and I don't even think that that's necessary. Like, I look at the Giants, and okay, Gettleman's going to retire. That's what should happen. And I'm not looking to disparage the man. Good football life, but he's got to go. He's got to retire. And now we're going to elevate Abrams, whatever.
Yeah.
This is a decade. You guys are talking about schematics and how you deploy offensive linemen. The Giants have been a joke for 10 years, David. They need to change something, really change something. What do they do?
Well, number one, it's definitely got to change with the culture and the attitude in that locker room, and that's where I think the losses of players like Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, Blake Martinez, Peppers on the defensive side of the ball, you got to have guys that are nasty and that are dogs, and they're going to bring out that mentality of the other players in the locker room, because now it's at a standstill to where instead of somebody stepping up, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to make a play, guys are looking around to see who that player is going to be. So I definitely think that attitude and mentality has to change amongst the locker room. But as I said, the one thing that when it comes to this football team, obviously we haven't seen the progress and we haven't seen the wins stack up like the expectations that everybody had for this Giants football team. But the one thing that I will say is, in that locker room, you haven't seen people turn their backs on one another. They still accept the coaching of Joe Judge. But when you look at it systematically, and especially I continue to hone in on the offensive side of the ball.
20 seconds, Dave.
Problems
20
where
seconds,
you got to utilize timeouts instead of taking delay of games. When it's a 4th and 1 and you're running 3 players out and there's only 13 seconds left on the play
That's
clock.
not good.
The playoff in a key situation.
I got you.
Something's wrong.
Well, listen, here's what we'll do. We'll pick this back up locally. We're not going to solve it in one little sit-down here, so happy holidays to you, pal. Merry Christmas, early Happy New Year. We'll be talking on The Fan, but wanted to get a little taste. Thanks a lot, buddy. We got to bounce. Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate you, Dave.
You got it. My pleasure, boys.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.